In this pro tip, I'm going to tell you about the difference between Warhammer 40k's power ratings and points, and why.
Warning, Uncle Adam is not a professional. He's usually not even very good. Try any and all of Uncle Adam's pro tips at your own risk. Void where prohibited. Uncle Adam is not actually an uncle.
There are two different classifications. I don't know what you would call them, because you would call them points, power points, and then points, but that's not what it is. It's points and power ratings. And if you're relatively new to Warhammer 40k, you might ask yourself, what's the difference? And if you're not actually really all that new, you might also want to know, because I barely understand it, and I've been doing a little bit of research. Power ratings came out in 8th edition, and what they are is they are that number that's actually on the data sheet, and it will say a number and then power, and it will be on the data sheet when you're looking at the stats and the weapons and all the stuff that you see about how, this unit or this person or this vehicle, what's their power. And that number doesn't seem to change. When it comes out in a codex, it's that number, and that's it. So when you are going to sit down and play let's say a combat patrol. Combat patrol, according to Games Workshop, should be around 25 points of power. See, power rating. 25 power rating or 500 points. Now you may ask yourself, why do we have to have two? And or do they collate? Do they come together? Yeah, sort of, they do. The main idea behind power rating is that it is a simpler number for you to noodle around in your brain so that you can come up with lists more quickly using power rating than you can with points. If you're going to sit down and look at a 2,000 point army, you need to go through, when you are using points, and look at every last little gun, pistol that the sergeant is carrying, all that stuff, and you have to basically get numbers for it and become a little bit of an accountant and try to figure out, okay, well, do I have this and do I have that and all that stuff, and then you end up and you have 2,001 points, and now you have to figure out how to shave 1 point off of your entire list, and it can be kind of a pain. But that's the way that the game had been run for years and years, and then in 8th edition they decided that it was going to change, and they were going to add this new power rating thing to every single unit in the game. Now you may ask yourself, well, Adam, why don't I just stick with the one that I like best? Why don't I just stick with points, because that's what I've been using for years? Or, maybe I'm just starting out and I don't know, power rating seems like it's a lot simpler and easier. They both have benefits and downsides, I would say. But here's the main thing. Power rating is, like I said, listed on the data sheet. That means you don't have to go buy the new chapter approved that comes out every year to find out what the new power rating is. It's on the data sheet, and it basically doesn't change. Now, points, that's not the case. So I've got some notes here. Lord of Contagion, he's a really super cool model, came in the 8th edition starter box, the Dark Imperium. And when he came out, he was 120 points with no weapons attached or anything. Just him alone, 120 points. Then the chapter approved 2019 came out the next year, and he went to 95 points. That's a significant jump. Down, I guess, a significant fall, I guess you'd say. And then in the new 2020 book, which is not quite out yet, but will be very, very soon on the 25th of July, now he's 100 points. So he went from 120 to 95 and then back up to 100, but this entire time he has been 7 power. This entire time. So what does that tell you? If you are looking to have fun and play with your friends and do a lot of narrative and things like that, and if you're maybe just getting into it, or if you hate math, then I would tell you to stick with the power ratings. Number one, you don't have to buy an extra book or download the app and go through the subscription and all that stuff if you don't want to. So you can just use the numbers that are already in your codex, the power rating. They're on every single one of the data sheets, and then just stick with that. When you decide to put out a unit of intercessors, but the sergeant's got like a plasma pistol or whatever the deal is, you don't have to go through and then redo the math on every last little thing. You just, the number is the number. Now, you're losing granularity, and that is important more for the people who are playing competitively. Granularity is showing you in many games of Warhammer 40,000 that there is a actually kind of substantial difference between, say, like a 1990 point army and a 2000 point army. In a lot of situations, that can be an extra piece of, war gear, an extra weapon, something like that. In some situations, it can be a whole nother actual model. If you're talking about real like orc boys or things like that are pretty low points. So these things can actually really come to help you down the road if you just decide, 1990 is pretty close. I'll just, that's fine. But maybe actually trying to get to 1999 or to 2000 points actually can maybe help you win the game. And I think that in, competitive play, that kind of noodling with the numbers makes a lot more sense. And I get that. But it has its downside in that those numbers change quite frequently. Again, the Tech Priest Dominus, when it came out for the Adeptus Mechanicus, in the Codex is 125 points, no weapons. The chapter approved 2019, he dropped to 70. That's a huge drop. And now he's 75 in the new 2020. So, you have to wonder, like, why do these things change? And is it for the better that they do? Is the granularity important? A lot of times, that much of a change from 125 to 70, that's a whole extra unit in some situations, potentially, or at least a couple add-ons to a couple of units. That's a lot of models that you can, get back. But the entire time, he was power 7. So if you were playing with power rating instead of points, then maybe he's overcosted or undercosted or whatever, but he's staying at the same spot. And so if you're playing competitively, you're not going to be playing with power rating, you're going to be playing with points. So if you're new to 40K and you're thinking about getting into it, because 9th edition is about to launch and there's a big hubbub about it, obviously, or if you've been playing for a while and you've always been kind of confused about which way to go, if you go with the points, then, because let's say your friends play that way and you're getting new into it and your friends have always been points people and you're going to be points, you understand that you are going to then have to buy chapter approved, or you're going to have to get the app, the new app that's coming out, and pay the subscription to get access to the points. The points get modified every year now because Games Workshop is paying very close attention to tournaments and other kinds of competitive play and figuring out, okay, well, maybe this guy is undercosted, or maybe this guy is overcosted, or maybe this vehicle should be worth more points, or whatever, and that kind of stuff. That's where the changes come from. That's where you go from a Knight Desecrator being 385 in the Codex originally, and then being 340. It's a 45-point drop, right? Yeah, in the 2019 chapter approved, and then 2020 he's back up to 370, but he stayed power 23 the entire time. So if you're not really concerned about your friends playing with points and all that kind of stuff, then you may be very interested in looking into the power rating and playing that way. It'll keep your math easier. It'll keep your list building a bit easier. You don't have to worry about buying an extra book once a year. You don't have to worry about subscribing to the app and all that stuff just to get the points. Power rating can make you have some really fun games, and you can play some really fun stuff as long as you're not interested in playing competitively, because competitively is going to be points. So I hope this helped you a little bit to understand the differences between power rating, some people will call it power level, sometimes those people work for Games Workshop, and points, because there's a lot of difference between the two in the granularity factor, the having the information directly right there in the datasheet factor. And if you're going to be playing match play a lot at tournaments at stores or conventions, if we ever have those again, that kind of thing, then you're going to probably want to go with points and understand that. But if you like having things being a little bit simpler and you're getting into the game, power rating is definitely a great way to go.